It
Shabbat
is, of
Shalom.
course, always wonderful to be with all of you. The world of matter has 6 dimensions, all measurable, weighable. East, west, south, north, up, down, taught Rabbi Judah Lau. But Shabbat adds a spiritual 7th dimension, which is Kedusha, sanctity. And tonight, as we prepare to welcome in Shabbat, we hope to do so with extra sanctity in the company of one another, welcoming in this holy day.
Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Be strong, and we will be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Candles burn in the window every Friday night. Listen close and look within. Be part of our light. We're singing together joyfully, passing love along. Shabbat keeps our family. Week by week, we're growing strong. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Be strong, and we will be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק.
And with that, we prepare to light our Shabbat candles, beginning this day with light.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And of course, we continue with our cup of grape juice or wine. I invite you to grab some if you have it handy, because we know that Shabbat is above all a day of joy, and we can celebrate that joy with the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techilah למקרא קודש, זכר לציאת Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, V'otanu kidashta, Mikol ha'amim, V'shabbat kodshecha, B'hava uvratzon, Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Hashamayim. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And now that we've said the words of Kiddush as well as over the candles, let us take a moment to welcome one another, to send a greeting to old friends and new friends, greetings of Shabbat Shalom, in hopes that this day will be as restorative and inspirational as we need it to be. So take a moment to do that as we start to celebrate just being in one another's company with a new Hine Matov.
Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Behold how good it is when we can be Achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Behold how good it is when we can be happily together. Oh, hine shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. We continue in welcoming Shabbat with some more of our songs of Kabbalat Shabbat. Bim bam bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, chiri biri biri bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. Bim bam bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, chiri biri biri bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Maya vehayom, what makes this day so beautiful? Shabbat shalom, the peace, the wholeness of Shabbat. Maya vehayom, Maya vehayom, Maya vehayom. Shalom umevorach. Shabbat Shalom lecha dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabla lecha dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabla Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom umevorach. Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom umevorach.
We turn, now that we've welcomed in Shabbat with our Kabbalah, our welcoming prayers, we move to the Baruch Hu, our call to worship, and I invite you to rise yourself, whether physically in body or spiritually, or both.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai.
Your world is like a puzzle, God, and all the pieces fit together. The sun lights up the earth by day, moon and stars glow at night. Icy winds make us shiver in winter, gentle winds cool us in summer. Red and brown leaves crunch beneath us in fall, flowers smell sweet in the spring. Your world is like a puzzle, God, and all the pieces fit together. We thank God for the world around us. God is everywhere and God is one. We thank God for the sun and the stars. God is everywhere and God is one. We thank God for giving us Torah. God is everywhere and God is one. We thank God for family and friends. God is everywhere and God is one. When we say Shema, we are saying God is everywhere and God is one. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, lie down, and when you rise. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be a symbol between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. When you rise, when you rise. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot, osei pele, osei pele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh.
We are one Torah portion away from the prayer that we just said, one Torah portion away from the celebration of the Israelites on the sea, at thanking God for their freedom, thanking God for being able to leave Egypt. But this week in our Torah portion, we're not quite there yet. We have some of the final plagues that are going on in the portion, and one of these plagues, the ninth one in fact, is a plague of darkness. And the Torah talks of this plague in really interesting ways. It says that the darkness was so severe that the Egyptians could not stand from their places, that it was overwhelming. It was bogging them down. It even described, Orach Chaim says, that the darkness of the Egyptians, it described it in individual terms, that a person was not able to see his brother. That's how overwhelming it felt. And yet in the same portion, just a short while later, in talking about this plague, it says that all the children of the Israel were able to have light in their dwellings. And what Orach Chaim teaches about this is that light was there the entire time. But at this moment, the Egyptians weren't able to see it. Now, perhaps what it was is that sometimes in life there is so much that's going on around us that we too may be bogged down, unable to see the light at really challenging moments. But what the portion ends up teaching us is that by Israelites working together in community, they were able to find light. They were able to find that inspiration. And I think as we turn to this next prayer, the Hashkivenu, where we ask God to shelter us beneath our wings, we can feel that shelter in a myriad of ways. Sometimes we find it in the sheltering arms of community, seeing the light in one another, and having others remind us of the light in ourselves.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom, ve'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפל, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
We continue with our Amidah, the prayers of the heart and the prayers that have been passed down to us for centuries. Whether you follow the words on the page or the prayers that your soul just longs to offer, let's join together by rising in body or in spirit for these standing prayers.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We can actually stop. Yeah, there we go. So we could just be here together, right? So traditionally, this first Shabbat of the month has been called Family Shabbat, a time where families can come together, run up on the ark, have a little moment with the Torah. We obviously haven't been able to do that for the past couple of years. I believe that in a few months we will. I have hope. But there's something else that also happens on this first Friday of the month, which is that we lean into stories. And we know that Jewish stories are such a big part of our culture, teaching lessons, teaching so many morals and cultural components of the Jewish people. And today I'd like to share with you a story for what I'm calling Story Shabbat about buried treasures. So in the story, there's a man by the name of Yaakov ben Yakel. And Yaakov ben Yakel, he lived in the Polish city of Krakow. And he lived there as a poor Jewish tailor who worked extremely hard, but never seemed to make quite enough money to feed his wife and his children. With nothing else to do, he went to the temple where he prayed for a miracle. And that very night, he had a magnificent dream. In it, he found himself in the distant, distant city of Prague, a place he had never been to before. And yet now he could see it all in vivid detail. He could feel the breeze as he walked through the streets with a shovel on his shoulder. And finally, he came to a spot in the ground, and there he began to dig a hole. As he did so, he heard a voice call out to him, Yaakov ben Yakel, go to Prague. There is something there that's waiting for you. He had the same dream again and again, each time even more vivid than the time before. And finally, he realized that there was nothing that he could do except get himself to Prague. So he began to walk there. It took him weeks through the rain, through the snow. And when he finally arrived, he was absolutely amazed by what he saw, because the city of Prague appeared exactly as it did in his dreams. He ran through the streets. He finally came to the very spot that he had seen in his dream, and he began to dig a hole. Suddenly, there was a hand on his shoulder. What are you doing? Said an angry voice. And there beside Yaakov stood a guard, the biggest man he had ever seen in his entire life. And Yaakov was terrified. Not knowing what else to say, Yaakov told his story. He told the truth. He talked about his dreams. He said, I'm digging here because I had a dream. Ha, laughed the guard. A dream? He slapped Yaakov. You look like a dreamer. You're thin, you're weak, you're sickly. Dreams are for fools like you, said the guard. But it's funny you mentioned dreams, because last night I had a dream. A voice spoke to me and said, you there, Ivan, go off to the town of Krakow, and there in the miserable little house of a tailor, something like Yankel or Yakel, you'll find under his stove a great treasure. It was a crazy dream, but you don't see me going off to Krakow, do you? No, dreams are for fools. With this, the guard kicked him out of the city, and Yaakov began this long walk home. And when he arrived weeks later, he hugged his entire family, and then he went right to the stove. And he pulled out the stove and he began to dig underneath it. He dug for hours and hours, but he found nothing. Exhausted from his trip, he went to sleep. Except as he was sleeping, his children began to play in the hole, digging deeper and deeper until his youngest child, his daughter, felt something that felt like an old soup pot. And with her brothers and sisters, she pulled it up and brought it to Yaakov, who pried it open to find that inside it was filled with gold and silver coins, a fortune enough to feed his family, to fix his house, and even to do what he had always wanted to do, to give to people who are most in need. So he lived. He lived a good life, a generous life, a life where his family and himself were all taken care of. And finally, when he was a very old man, he found himself with only one coin left. This coin he decided to give to a beggar in the town. "Thank you," said the man. "And for you, Yaakov, I have 2 words of advice." "Advice?" asked Yaakov. "Yes," said the beggar. "Dig deeper." So Yaakov, he went to his house and he returned to that stove under which he found the same hole, and he began to dig again, and this time he found a box. Though it was small, he opened it to find diamonds and rubies and emeralds, a greater treasure than he had ever imagined. He had enough money to build a small house of study at a place where 2 roads met. There's a legend that the building still stands today, a place for travelers to stop and rest, to think about where they've been and where they want to go. You'll always know when you arrived when you see the words that are written on the wall in golden letters. Sometimes you must follow your dreams very far to find that which is closest to your heart. Now, this story, this beautiful story, can teach us so much. And it even has parallels with some of the Torah study that we're in the midst of right now. Because we know that in the Torah, Moses, at the very beginning, he lived in Egypt, not far away from where his Jewish people lived. And what happened? He ended up leaving. He left in order to find safety, in order to find himself peace, but he wasn't able to go forward with his life until he returned to his home, returned to his family. Sometimes we might go out seeking all sorts of things, thinking that they will bring us joy, but sometimes the greatest treasures are right there in front of us all along, in the people we love, in the home that we have, in the tradition that can teach us so much. And of course, in community as well. I know right now there are so many people in our community who have loved ones or who they themselves are sick with COVID. People in our community who are struggling with illnesses of mind, of body, and of spirit. And so I invite you, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, here on Zoom, to write in the chat the name of anyone for whom you'd like to offer a Mishaberach prayer. I know we're certainly thinking about Lauren Gordon and Trudy Kapner, Jackie Grossman, Helene Goldenberg, Robin Gregson, Hannah McCulloch, Jennifer Harrison Gomez, Kathleen Gimblett, Scott Cohen, Richard Aber, Paige Montaigne, Beverly Alana Steinberg, Devlin Allwater, Yisrael Ben Yehudit, Joan Morris, Mark and Barbara Paul, Philip Ray, Jerry Mednick, Norm Cantor, Marty Cohen Spiegel, Karen Lavoie, Beth Montaigne, Adina Bat Avraham Vikla, Eileen Edinger, Pam Moore, Janice Siroti, Rich Siroti, Marilyn Ponseji, Larry Ponseji, Jack Silverberg, Laura Small, Elaine Ash, Sheila Teitelbaum, Jean Bloomson, Patty Lester, Marty Eberson, Jeff Riker, and Sam Heron Goldman. I see a few more names in the chat, and of course we lift up every single one of these people as we join together in offering the Mishaberach prayer.
Mishaberach מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu, מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, God, whose healing presence is with all of those in need. And we all say, Amen.
Amen. In community, I want to share with you a special poem. Perhaps you've seen it already. But this is our first Shabbat of 2022, this first Shabbat of this new year, of our centennial year as a temple. And with this new year, it may not be a Jewish year, but it is an opportunity for positive new beginnings. And so it feels appropriate to me to share this poem that Amanda Gorman wrote for the new year, entitled New Day's Lyric. She writes, "May this be the day we come together. Mourning we come to mend, withered we come to weather, torn we come to tend, battered we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. We steadily vow that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now the moments we make, the moments we meet, and our hearts, once altogether beaten, now altogether beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts we hear it for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. Be bold, sang time this year. Be bold, sang time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow ye will find. Know what we've fought need not be forgot, nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join this day just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome." As a community, of course, we come together to mourn the losses of people who have died within this past week. Erwin Scher, within this period of Shloshim, Patricia Mednick, Charles Snyder, Yamna Aish, Alicia Lipino, and Lenny Felds. and people who have died at this time in years past. Jerome Abrams, Sophie Abramson, Sophie Anderson, Elzefano Baez, Morris Becker, Barbara Boaz, Jack Bortel, Ralph Bird, Hilary Berman, Seferino Carpio Jr., Ben Cohen, John Damsky, Leon Fine, Frank Fine, Melvin Frumis, Miriam Furman, Al Gardner, Caroline Ginsberg, Belle Goldberg, Leslie Goldenberg, Galadaro Gonzalez, Alfred Greenside, Ida Haith, Tilly Handel, Soul Hart, Virginia Herman, Marvin Hybert, Sid Horn, Shirley Hurwitz, Toby Kaplan, Charles Klempter, Abraham Kraut, Irving Lambert, Alfred Leach, Toby Levine, Robert Levinson, Sidney Liebling, Ethel Lorman, Seymour Marcuse, Alex Martin, John McKeegan, Rachel Merlin, Anna Mora, Julia Morris, Sanford Mosenson, Betty Ostran, Celia Peskowitz, and Ida Yidis Roga. If there's anyone else whose names we'd like to mention, I invite you to put their names in the chat as well. And as we remember each of them, let us rise in body or in spirit to say aloud the words of our mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'amad divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon, u'b'chayei dekol beit Yisrael. B'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam, olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabak, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitaseh. V'yitzadar, v'yitzalev, v'yitzalal, shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'neflamata. Damiram ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen.
Oh, say shalom, b'mroma, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu, ve'al kol Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael
Also remember Joel Rubin and Rose Rubin, Ida Smukler and Miriam Elka Schultz, Bernice Schwartz, Rose Turinsky, Barry Teitelbaum, Matthew Varon, Bernice Waldman, Seymour Waterman, Sandra Wayne, Saul Zafran, and Esther Zamos Turk. For all of these people, may their memories forever be a blessing. Let's sing Oseh Shalom one more time.
Oseh shalom, b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shalom.
everyone. Thank you so much for being here in sacred community. And I just want to let you know of a couple of really wonderful things that are coming up tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I'll be leading a healing service. And at that healing service, as you saw from the email that was sent out earlier today or on Facebook, if you haven't seen it yet, that's okay. You still can. But there is a special blessing that was created specifically for anyone who has a chronic illness. And we'll be sharing that tomorrow morning during the healing service. Next week, we have our big Shabbat Shirah service where Bob Farrell is going to be speaking, sharing some really powerful words. You don't want to miss that for sure. And on next Saturday, to celebrate the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, the birthday of the trees, we are going to have a joint event with the Garden Church, which will include some gardening, learning a little bit about Tu B'Shvat, and talking about climate change and what we can do in order to protect our world. There's so much more to announce as well, but that's just a small glimpse of some of the things. Is there anything else you want to add, Cantor?
No, not at all. I'm excited
Wonderful.
about Shabbat Shirah coming up. So
Yes. So I invite you to hang around as we can put you into breakout rooms.